Here we can see that this is a grammar question, and it has to do with special punctuation, colons, and long dashes. So let's quickly talk about that. First of all, to understand the difference, you have to know what a clause is. A clause has a subject and a verb. For instance, John jumped. That would be an independent clause. It would be dependent with a weak conjunction in the front. For instance, since John jumped. Now, if something doesn't have a subject and a verb, or if it doesn't have both, it's a modifier. So for instance, while jumping, John twisted his ankle. ING words are not verbs by definition, and there's no mention of John or he in that part that says while jumping. So that part there would be considered a modifier because it's not a full clause. Now, we need to know that because the definitions for semicolon, colon, and long dash all have to do with independent clauses. So for the semicolon, you have two independent clauses. John went to the mall, he bought shoes. So subject verb, John went, and he bought. So two independent clauses, semicolon. For a colon, the first part's an independent clause, and the second part's anything that describes the first part. So for instance, there was only one thing Scooby could do, run. So the first part is independent. So was is the verb, and one thing. There was only one thing. This is a unique situation here where the subject's actually after the verb. It's a little more rare, but in any case, you have an independent clause followed by anything. After the colon, you can have an independent clause, a single word, or anything in between, as long as it describes the first part. Finally, the long dash. One long dash is a colon, and two is a set of parentheses. So right here we have the same exact colon sentence, instead with a long dash. Now, why would they be so interchangeable? Well, back when the SAT used to emphasize the essay a lot more, you'd get extra points for sentence diversity. So you could use a colon at one moment, a long dash at another, and your sentences would not be all alike. In any case, two is a set of parentheses. So Scooby, who had been in this situation many times before, decided to run. You're not ready for an SAT if you don't have the definitions for the colon, semicolon, and long dash well memorized. So coming over here, let's understand what's being said first. So this artist uses black ink pens to create highly detailed drawings of human figures. Her portrait of this novelist is displayed in this gallery. So we can already get rid of the colon and the long dash. Well, first of all, because they're equivalent to each other, because a colon and a dash are the same thing if there's only one long dash. And the definition is that the first part has to be an independent clause. So if this part here could have been its own sentence leading up to the word Smith, then a colon or a long dash may be appropriate there. Now, why is it not an independent clause? Because there's no verb. Her portrait was displayed or is displayed. So if up to that point we had the word is somewhere in there, then we'd be able to say the first part is an independent clause. So because it's not, we'll easily get rid of A and B. Now looking at the other answer choices, what's really going on in this question is what we refer to as a long intro. Now the long intro is one of two ways to name people or things. For instance, SAT instructor Alex Torres is nice. So instead of my name being Alex Torres, I am SAT instructor Alex Torres. So the information about the person is being combined with the name into one big thing. That's very similar to just saying Alex is nice. So that's the idea of the long intro. The alternative to that would be the middle modifier. For instance, the SAT instructor, Alex Torres, is nice. This would only work if you were able to get rid of the piece in between and the rest of it were to read well, which couldn't have been done in this situation, by the way. So this question is about the long intro. We're seeing that her portrait of novelist Zadie Smith is displayed in this gallery. So for instance, let's just say I replace the whole name with just Smith, then that would work great. Her portrait of Smith is displayed in the gallery. So we don't want any commas at all because that's generally how the long intro works. And the answer here is C.